This evening I'd like to start by looking at a definition of patriotism, and we have had, I think, a number of definitions, but let me give you the Cambridge Dictionary definition. The feeling of loving your country more than any other and being proud of it. And it is this role of pride that I would like to concentrate on this evening. The Oxford English Dictionary defines pride as feeling deep pleasure or satisfaction as a result of one's own achievements, qualities, or possessions, or those of someone with whom one is closely associated, and for our purposes, the country where we live. However, pleasure in past and current achievements must be seen in the context of a country's overall record, and particularly the way it treats all of its citizens. So my remarks this evening are very much influenced by my work in anti-racism through the Jewish Council for Racial Equality. And this has led me to two main conclusions, which I'd like to share with you this evening. The first is that because inequality disproportionately affects minority, vulnerable communities, such as Black and Asian communities, and refugees and asylum seekers, their ability to feel pride in their country and play a full role within it is severely limited because of this inequality. And the second is that because of the existence of inequality, it actually helps to reinforce xenophobia and scapegoating within society generally, and these reinforce social and economic divisions, so that patriotism can be associated with negative attitudes and behavior. For example, last week, flyers appeared on every floor of a 15-story tower block in Norwich headed, "Happy Brexit Day." The flyers demanded that now we have our, quote, "great country back." Only English would be tolerated in the flats, and those residents wishing to speak another language should go home. The flyer concluded, "God save the Queen, her government, and all true patriots." I hope to convince you this evening to defeat this motion by briefly examining 4 points. Why I did not feel pride in the country of my birth, the United States, why I did feel pride in the country I moved to, Britain, but why I do no longer feel pride in Britain, and how I can feel pride again. So let's rewind back to 1960s America, a country which I did feel, it certainly was one that I could not feel pride. I left the United States in 1969. This is a time when the country was deeply embroiled in a terrible war in Vietnam. It was a country where 6 university students were shot and killed by the National Guard for protesting against this war. It was a country that practiced capital punishment on a wide scale, and where you would be hard-pressed to tell the difference between the treatment of Black people in the South and apartheid South Africa. In addition, the United States, one of the richest, if not the richest country in the world, millions of people lived in poverty and could not afford even basic health care. And to give it a stamp of approval, you had to put your hand over your heart every morning in school and pledge allegiance to the flag and all it stood for. It was almost as if patriotism was part of the national curriculum. I did, however, feel pride in the country I moved to. Unlike the United States, the UK had a comprehensive health service available for all, a welfare state, sensible gun control. It no longer practiced capital punishment. It had free university education and did not act as the policeman for the world. I, for one, felt that the end of empire was a good thing. In fact, losing the empire was a sign of strength, not weakness. I felt pride in moving to a country which had strong race relations legislation. Though it was not perfect, it did for me have a sense of social solidarity and a positive commitment to public services and the collective good, which I did not find in the United States. In short, it was a country in which I did feel a sense of pride because of its achievements in social, civic, and health provisions. But alas, I no longer feel that pride in Britain. That's because of the imposition of measures which I feel have and still are destroying the moral and economic fabric of the country. This includes not funding the NHS properly, cuts to welfare provision, legal aid, Sure Start, and education maintenance allowance, and the imposition of the bedroom tax. The institutionalization of the whole austerity agenda, which grew unabated together with the awful destructive language that reinforces it, the language of division, has left a terrible mark on how we see ourselves as a nation. Us and them, hard-working British families versus the rest, scoundrels, skivers, this something-for-nothing society. This was done at the same time as public services and public servants were denigrated, all leading to the scapegoating, stereotyping, and marginalization of groups such as welfare recipients, single mothers, disabled people, asylum seekers and refugees, and migrants, and by extension, many Black and Asian people, irrespective of whether they were actually born here. And I don't feel pride in a country where child poverty is escalating so that now 4.1 million children live in poverty, and it's predicted that this will go up to 5.2 million by 2022. That's 30% of all children. And this city has the fourth highest child poverty rate in the country. I can't feel proud of a country where last year 4 million children went to school without basic necessities, such as a warm coat and properly fitted shoes. I can't feel proud of a country where the number of food banks has increased by 23% in the past year. I can't feel proud of a country where too many people have to choose between eating and heating. I can't feel proud of a country which does not allow asylum seekers the right to work. And I can't feel pride in a country where hate crime linked to the referendum has doubled, and racism, be it Islamophobia, anti-Black racism, and anti-Semitism, have all increased. In short, I can't feel pride in a country where past achievement and current developments epitomize for me what my late friend, Rabbi Hugo Gryn, described as the hardening of the caring arteries. Can this pride be restored? Here are a few suggestions. Establish a permanent memorial to the victims of the transatlantic slave trade. Teach migration, belonging, and empire in all schools. Teach a version of British history which includes all communities who live here, so that when we remember our war heroes, including the 4 million Indian, Pakistani, and Bangladeshi soldiers who served in both wars, and the 3 million African soldiers who lie in unmarked graves. Demand that all politicians of all parties modify their language and use it in a more positive way, and that all political parties have transparent procedures to deal with all forms of racism, be it anti-Black racism, Islamophobia, or anti-Semitism. Acknowledge and address the increase in racial attacks which occurred after the Brexit vote. Crack down on social media that normalizes hate, and tackle poverty. I could feel pride in a country which removed barriers so that minority communities feel that they have a stake in this country. Messages on bans in 2013 telling so-called illegal migrants to go home did not exactly make people feel they belonged here. I could feel pride in a country that admitted its mistakes over Windrush and did something about those mistakes. I could feel pride in a country that honors its commitment to child refugees. I could feel pride in a country where your sense of belonging is not predicated on testing your allegiance, such as the cricket test, as infamously defined by Norman Tebbit, the former cabinet minister in Mrs. Thatcher's government. I could feel pride in a country which recognized its commitment to human rights and wanted to strengthen that commitment, and recognized that many of the things we call British values, fairness, tolerance, are in fact those universal human values which are shared by many people who are not British. I could feel pride in a country where loyalty to the country was expressed by reinforcing social solidarity and a commitment to internationalism without encouraging xenophobia. In conclusion, despite my discomfort with the word patriotism, I very much want to feel pride in Britain again. However, I can never ever separate pride in a country from the way it cares about everyone who lives here and its commitment to the global community. Mr. President, Madam President, I beg to oppose this motion.